When your baby needs help, you show up. You move heaven, earth, and your mother's Wi-Fi to protect them. But what happens when the person who's supposed to protect them walks away? This isn't your average family fight. This is betrayal dipped in glitter and broadcast in 4K. The kind of heartbreak that makes the Kardashians look emotionally balanced, because somewhere between clout, chaos, and camera phones, a parent just chose fame over their own flesh and blood, and the receipts? They're uglier than a Hollywood apology video. The world thought this family was goals. Turns out the goal was attention, and now everyone's talking. Fans are crying, bloggers are thriving, and the internet's sharpening its pitchforks like it's Game of Thrones Baby Edition. We're talking screenshots, leaked messages, and live streams of regret. This isn't just another messy headline, it's the raw truth about what happens when love turns performative and innocence becomes collateral damage. When your baby needs help, and the one person who should have stepped up simply turned around, grab your popcorn, your moral compass, and maybe a tissue. Because what you're about to hear will make every celebrity scandal you've seen look like a toddler tantrum. The story starts like every internet fairy tale gone wrong, a picture-perfect family. All smiles on Instagram, matching outfits, inspirational captions about doing it for the kids. But behind that glossy filter was something darker, something even Photoshop couldn't fix. Because while the world was double-tapping their #FamilyGoals photos, the truth was unraveling faster than a cheap wig in a windstorm. It all began when fans noticed the shift, the subtle unfollows, the deleted posts, the missing appearances. One minute they were a power couple raising a child in the spotlight, and the next it was just silence. Not the peaceful kind. The eerie kind. The kind that makes people scroll back months trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything fell apart. Then, out of nowhere, the drama detonated. A video surfaced online, one that should have never seen the light of day. A crying child. A desperate call for help. And the person holding the phone? The parent, filming, not comforting. Not helping, filming. Because in 2025, apparently empathy has to go through content approval. The internet lost its mind. Within hours, the clip had more views than the Super Bowl halftime show. People weren't just watching, they were angry, disgusted, heartbroken. How could they just stand there? One comment read, "That baby needed help, not hashtags." Another said, but the worst part wasn't even the video, it was the reaction afterward. The parent, instead of apologizing, went live. You heard that right, live, tears on cue. Makeup perfectly smudged. Background music cued like a Lifetime movie. "I did what I could," they said, voice trembling for the camera. But sometimes you just have to let people learn. Excuse me? Let a baby learn? What is this? An audition for Parenting Gone Wrong, the series? Fans weren't having it. They started digging. Old clips, interviews, podcasts, every piece of content was suddenly under forensic investigation. People found moments that now looked suspicious. The times they made the baby cry for content. The fake smiles, the jokes that felt a little too cruel in hindsight. It was like rewatching a sitcom and realizing it was actually a horror movie. Then came the insiders. Anonymous sources claiming the relationship between the parents had been toxic for months. Allegedly, there were fights over money, attention, and control. One side wanted peace. The other wanted publicity. The baby became the middleman, or worse, the main attraction. And when the help was needed most, when that child cried, scared and hurting, the protector walked away. Not just physically, but emotionally. The parent had been warned, begged, even told by close friends to step up. But clout is a dangerous addiction. When you start measuring love and likes, empathy starts buffering. By now, the story had spread beyond gossip blogs. Mainstream media picked it up. Morning shows ran the clip. Headlines screamed, "Parent fails to help child," internet outraged. Celebrities started chiming in. One tweeted, "Parenting isn't a brand deal." Another said, "If you need a camera to show you care, you don't." Meanwhile, the other parent, the one who actually tried to help, finally spoke out. They didn't go live. They didn't post a thread. They released a quiet, heart-wrenching statement. When your child is in danger, you don't think, you act. That's love. That's what I did. It wasn't long, but it was enough to break hearts everywhere. Fans immediately split into camps. Team protector versus team performer. Team save the baby versus team they're just human. But let's be real, the performer didn't make it easy to defend themselves. Instead of reflection, they posted selfies. Instead of accountability, they uploaded motivational quotes about growth and finding peace. Growth? Sis, you need parenting classes, not Pinterest boards. As the heat grew, brands started backing out. Sponsorships disappeared. That family podcast gone. The merch line? Cancelled. The world was done funding fake family values. Because for once, the internet had drawn a line between content and cruelty, and yet, the performer doubled down. They went on another live this time, claiming the other parent was exaggerating, that people didn't know the full story. They called it an edited clip, said the internet was being manipulated. Classic deflection. But fans weren't buying it. We saw the baby crying, one user wrote. You don't edit that. In a desperate move, they even tried to play the victim. They posted about mental health, pressure, and being misunderstood. And while that could have been sincere, it felt like another PR strategy, another attempt to make tragedy go viral. The situation hit its peak when the baby's grandmother, yes, the grandmother, went live herself. She wasn't polished, she wasn't calm, but she was real. Y'all stop playing with my grandbaby's pain, she said, voice shaking. We raised you better than this. The internet froze. You could feel the shame seep through the screen. When grandma speaks, it's over. The next morning, news outlets reported that authorities were getting involved. Welfare checks, custody rumors, legal consultations. It was turning into a real-life soap opera. Fans were scared now. They didn't just want gossip. They wanted justice. That baby deserves safety, not sponsorships. One viral comment read, and through it all, the performer kept posting. Still smiling. Still promoting. Still pretending everything was fine. It was like watching someone rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. Everyone else saw the iceberg, they were just busy posing for selfies. The story had evolved from scandal to cautionary tale. Every influencer, every young parent chasing fame was now watching closely. Because this wasn't just about one bad decision, it was about what happens when your priorities collapse. When the love that should have protected turns into the content that destroys, the public had turned. Fans who once worshipped this parent now couldn't even look at them. The betrayal was personal. They'd supported this family for years, believed in their love story, bought the merch, joined the lives. And now they realized they weren't fans. They were witnesses. Witnesses to a slow-motion heartbreak. But the real heartbreak wasn't the internet outrage. It wasn't the canceled deals or deleted posts. It was the question echoing through every comment section, every headline, every heart that watched that video. How could you walk away from your own child? That's the moment this stopped being gossip. It became something else, something raw, uncomfortable, and real. Because fame fades. Money goes. But one thing stays forever: the way you show up for the people who can't defend themselves. And this time, someone who should have stepped up just didn't, and that, my friends, is when the fairy tale cracked. The camera stopped rolling, but the damage? Oh, that's permanent. By the time the sun rose the next day, the internet wasn't just mad, it was mobilized. Everyone had become an overnight investigator. You had Twitter threads breaking down emotional evidence, TikToks analyzing facial expressions, and Reddit forums treating this like it was a true crime case. If Sherlock Holmes had Wi-Fi, this would have been his magnum opus. People were slowing down the video frame by frame, highlighting the baby's tear-streaked face and the parent's expression, cold, detached, more focused on camera angles than comfort. Look at that smirk, one fan wrote. You can tell they were more worried about lighting than their own child. The comment got over 500,000 likes. The public wasn't just disgusted. They were united. Influencers who normally stay neutral started speaking out. One said, if you film pain for views, you don't need a camera, you need counseling. Another posted, parenting isn't a brand deal. Even celebrities chimed in. Kik Palmer tweeted, babies need love, not likes. Lizzo reposted the clip with the caption, this ain't it. The story had jumped from gossip to global outrage, but while the internet raged, the parent at the center of the storm was busy doing what they do best, monetizing it. Instead of apologizing, they leaned in. They posted vague quotes about being misunderstood, dropped a YouTube vlog titled My Side of the Story, and, I kid you not, launched a line of merch with the phrase, "Love is growth." The audacity could power an entire city. The vlog was a masterpiece of deflection. Sad piano music playing in the background, soft lighting, dramatic pauses between sentences like they were auditioning for an Oscar. "I'm not perfect," they said tearfully, "but I did what I thought was right at the time." They blamed the stress of public life, pressure from management, and miscommunication. Miscommunication? Sis, you didn't forget to text back. You forgot to help your child. The comment section was a battlefield. Half were furious. Delete this. Go parent your kid. The other half were weirdly sympathetic, posting things like, "We all make mistakes and stay strong." But the overall tone? Disbelief. Because no amount of soft lighting can make neglect look noble. Meanwhile, the other parent, the real MVP in this mess, stayed quiet. That silence was louder than any rant. But the public wasn't done with the truth yet. They started digging deeper into the family's history, finding old interviews where cracks were already showing. There were subtle jabs, awkward silences, and a few moments where you could see resentment simmering beneath the surface. It was like watching the deleted scenes of a documentary that was always meant to end badly. Then came the screenshots. Alleged text messages between the two parents leaked online, conversations showing, arguments over who would handle the baby's social media page. Imagine that. Fighting over Instagram management like it's a Fortune 500 company, while the real issue was sitting right there in diapers. One message read, "You don't care about parenting. You care about engagement." Another, "Stop making every moment a post." And that's when it clicked for the fans. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. This was a lifestyle. From there, the memes went nuclear. One viral TikTok said, "When your kid cries but your influencer contract says post daily," with someone pretending to film instead of help. Another showed a fake trailer titled The Parent Trap Influencer Edition, with dramatic music and the tagline, "Likes before love." The internet was savage. But let's be honest, it was also accurate. By midweek, the fallout had turned into a PR apocalypse. Major parenting brands began quietly removing endorsements. One even issued a statement, "We stand with children, not clicks." That line alone went viral. The same fans who once idolized this family were now calling for boycotts. You could practically feel the influencer's empire collapsing in real time, but they still refused to admit fault. In their next live, they started crying again. This time, the tears didn't hit. Viewers could tell they were manufactured. "They rehearsed that," one user commented. Another replied, "That's the same fake cry from their 2023 apology tour." The internet had evolved. They could smell manipulation like perfume, and just when everyone thought it couldn't get worse, a family friend came forward. They didn't name names, but they said enough. "That baby's been through more than y'all think," they revealed. Every time something bad happens, it turns into content. Every tear, every tantrum recorded, edited, monetized. That single quote set the web ablaze. It wasn't just a scandal anymore, it was exploitation. Suddenly, the tone shifted. What started as gossip had turned into a movement. Hashtags like #ProtectTheBaby and #StopFamily content started trending. People were calling for laws to protect minors from being used in influencer content. Even politicians weighed in. One tweeted, "It's time we protect children from digital exploitation." And while the internet was rallying behind the cause, paparazzi caught the other parent, the protector, leaving a courthouse with what looked like legal paperwork in hand. That photo hit harder than any press statement. It screamed, "Enough is enough." Fans flooded the comments with support. "Take that baby and run. We're with you." Finally, someone's putting love before likes. It became clear this wasn't just about one family anymore. It was about a generation of kids being raised by ring lights and algorithms. The influencers' world continued to crumble. Collaborations dried up. Management dropped them. Even their fan accounts turned into exposed pages overnight. They tried to clap back, posting long captions about growth and healing, but no one was buying it. When you've been exposed, you can't post your way out of accountability, but maybe the most haunting part? The silence from the baby's side. For once, the cameras stopped rolling. No new videos. No updates. Just stillness. And that silence said everything. By the end of that week, every tabloid, every podcast, every YouTube channel was dissecting this like a digital autopsy. But buried under the sarcasm, memes, and outrage was something genuinely tragic. A child caught in the crossfire of ego, fame, and emotional neglect. Because when the internet's attention span fades, the views disappear. But the scars? They stay, and as the dust settled, the world started asking a new question. Not how could they do this, but how many more families are doing the same and getting away with it? Because maybe this wasn't just one parent's failure. Maybe it was a mirror, reflecting everything wrong with our obsession with online validation. And once you've seen that reflection, it's hard to scroll past it. By the time the weekend rolled in, the story had spiraled from scandal to social reckoning. Everyone from morning talk shows to late-night comedians was dissecting what went wrong. Headlines screamed things like, "The parent who chose," "Clover Care," and "Baby in Crisis." When love goes live, what used to be a glossy influencer empire now looked like a cautionary documentary in the making. TME magazine called it the moment the internet grew a conscience. Because suddenly, people weren't just gossiping, they were thinking. They were asking why it took a viral video for anyone to care. They were questioning every influencer who films a crying child, every parent who turns trauma into content, every family vlog that looks suspiciously scripted. But for the person at the center of it, the one who walked away, the reflection came too late. Their brand collapsed like a bad reality show finale. The sponsorships dried up, the team jumped ship, and the public sympathy meter hit absolute zero. Every time they tried to post, the comments section turned into a courtroom. "You walked away," one fan wrote. "We'll never forget." Meanwhile, the other parent, the one who stayed, became the internet's reluctant hero. Not because they wanted fame, but because they represented what decency still looks like in an age of filters and fakeness. Paparazzi photos showed them walking their baby into a clinic, looking exhausted but determined. No makeup, no press, no hashtags, just love. And that image went viral too, but for all the right reasons. People weren't laughing this time. They were moved, but the story took an even darker turn when leaked court documents started circulating online. According to alleged insiders, the performer parent had lost temporary custody. It wasn't confirmed, but the silence spoke volumes. No lives, no posts. Just nothing. The influencer who once broadcast every breath was suddenly offline. And that silence, that eerie, unfamiliar quiet hit harder than any apology video ever could. Because when someone lives online, disappearing is the loudest confession of all. The internet, being the emotional tornado it is, started flipping between empathy and rage. Some said maybe they finally realized what they did. Others fired back, "Too late, that baby cried on camera while you adjusted your ring light." Even other influencers tried to step in. One wrote a long post about grace and healing, only to be roasted in their own comments for defending neglect. The public had made up its mind. Accountability had entered the chat. Then came the documentaries. YouTube channels with millions of subscribers released exposes titled "The Family That Fell Apart" and "Clout Chasing Gone Wrong." They used slow piano music, voiceovers, and dramatic montages to highlight the timeline of collapse. Every thumbnail showed the same heartbreaking image, that baby's crying face frozen in time, forever reminding the world how a moment of selfishness became a cultural earthquake. Meanwhile, the conversation evolved. People started demanding stricter child protection laws for digital content. News anchors quoted the phrase that became the scandal's slogan, "Children aren't content." Activists and psychologists joined panels, talking about how constant exposure warps a child's development, how performative parenting creates emotional scars that never heal, and buried beneath the chaos, something almost poetic happened. The other parent, the quiet one, launched a foundation. Not for clout, not for headlines, but for protection. It was called the Safe Lens Project, dedicated to advocating for kids exploited online by their own families. The internet rallied behind it. Donations poured in. The same platforms that once fueled the destruction were now fueling a cause. But not everyone found redemption. The influencer tried one last desperate attempt at a comeback. A tell-all interview, teary-eyed, humble background. A title card that read, "I was hurting too." They claimed depression, pressure, manipulation, every PR excuse in the book. But the audience wasn't buying the victim narrative. The top comment under the video summed it up perfectly. You weren't the victim. The baby was? That comment got 1 million likes. It became the mic drop of the entire saga. The backlash didn't just end there. Companies began cutting ties with influencers who featured their kids for profit. Family vloggers started blurring their children's faces. Some even deleted years of videos overnight, terrified of being the next headline. The message was clear: exploit your kid, lose your career. But even as the digital world moved on, the human side of the story lingered. The baby, innocent, voiceless, had become a symbol of something much bigger. A generation realizing that fame without empathy isn't success, it's sickness. That protecting your image means nothing if you can't protect your child. And ironically, it took one moment of abandonment to wake everyone up. Because now, every time someone sees a family prank video or a forced cute cry clip online, they hesitate. They remember this story. They remember the face of a child begging for help while a parent chose lighting over love, months later. The influencer tried returning quietly, rebranding as a mental health advocate. But the internet never forgets. Every post was flooded with reminders, screenshots, quotes. And that one unforgettable line, "When your baby needed help, you walked away." And maybe that's the real punishment, not prison, not fines, but the permanent echo of your own failure following you wherever you go. The quiet parent and their child, on the other hand, disappeared from the spotlight completely. No posts, no drama, no lives. Just peace. And in a world addicted to noise, that silence became the loudest flex of all. In the end, this wasn't just a scandal, it was a warning. A mirror held up to a world where we measure love in likes, where empathy has an audience, and where even pain needs a thumbnail dot. So, when your baby needs help and the world is watching, you have a choice: reach for your child or reach for your phone. One saves a life, the other ruins one, and this time the internet chose to remember who didn't. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how one viral moment turned into a moral wake-up call. Because when your baby needs help, you don't schedule it for content. You don't fix the lighting. You don't ask, does this angle make me look compassionate? You move, you show up. You protect. Period. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this parent deserves a comeback, or should the internet keep them permanently benched? Drop your take in the comments, because this story split the world in half. Team forgive or team forget. And trust me, the comment section on this one is about to look like a digital courtroom while you're down there. Go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you child support. And subscribe before another influencer meltdown breaks the internet. Because over here at Trend Tattle, we don't chase drama, we analyze it, we roast it. And we serve it boiling hot with a side of moral clarity and messy laughter. Turn those notifications on, because tomorrow, someone else is going live crying for clout and pretending it's growth. And when that happens, you know where you'll hear it first. Remember, in this era of viral tears and digital parenting, the real heroes aren't the ones with the biggest audiences. They're the ones who show up when no one's watching. This is Trend Tattle, signing off, reminding you that the truth doesn't need a filter, karma doesn't need Wi-Fi, and the tea? It'll always find a way to spill.